All right, so we got my guy Kyle in here.
How you guys doing?
Met Kyle in the ER when I was doing my rotations as a PA student. Really good, humble brother. He's also in the real estate too, so we're definitely talking about doing some ventures in the future. But a part of my series of just letting people know all the different fields in medicine is not always blood and guts. There are other fields that you can be into. So, Cal, what is it exactly that you do here?
Well, I'm a CCT, which is a critical care technician. We're not nurses aides or we're not medical assistants. We're a little bit more. We help the doctors, we help nurses, we help the surgeons. My actually my job, my role in particular, I go into the trauma bay. Where trauma bay is where we get our critical, I would say, accidents or injuries like gunshots, stabbings, anything of this sort. From there, we assist the doctors with getting all the utensils, make sure we can, save them, CPR, whatever needs to be done.
So pretty much you're like a support staff, and pretty much whatever the need at the time, that's where you get in. As far as your training, you say you're not a tech, and you say you're not a nurse's aide. What?
Medical assistant.
Not a medical assistant.
Yeah.
So what exactly can you do? Can you draw bloods? Can you give medications? Like, what is the thing?
So you're not allowed to draw or give medications without a license in New Jersey, and that's where your RN or your LPN comes in. So we're like we're I guess our capacity is more like an LPN, but we're not allowed to give medications. We're not allowed to diagnose or anything like that, but we can draw blood. We can perform CPR. We can assist in surgeries of that sort.
So how did you find out about this job?
Well, originally I was an EMT, emergency medical technician. I was out on the road, doing my thing out there. Got tired of being out in the weather, I was like, all right, let me come inside. It wasn't really any growth out there as far as, leveling up. Like, the only thing was down was paramedic. So it was like, all right, so if I'm becoming a paramedic, I might as well be a nurse. And, I got tired of being outside, so I was like, let me get an inside feel. If I'm coming into the ER, let me get the other side of the coin. So that was the other side of the coin. So I transferred in as an EMT to a CCT, critical care technician.
So would you say a CCT is the hospital's EMT?
I would say that's a fairly, a good assumption, or it's pretty accurate. What we do out there is pretty much the same thing we're doing here, just on another level. Because now we have the doctors. We're out there, it's just you and your partner, and maybe the paramedics come.
So you have more support inside the hospital.
Definitely.
So basically, you would say your job got easier since you decided to come inside the hospital.
Well, easier, no.
Because it's less responsibilities. Like less things that you have to, less decisions that you have to make.
Well, you got to think about it like this. So as an EMT, your job is to stabilize the patient, bring them to the hospital, where they are to continue their stabilization, and then get them to a point where they're able to go home.
Right.
So I ain't saying we're just transporters, but at the time we're just the first in line, and then the ER is also the second, but also the first, because they have to do the life-saving, continue those life-saving techniques to make sure the patient is able to survive.
What's the education for a CCT?
Well, CCT right now for the job position, they're actually saying you have to be in nursing school, like maybe a year in, or you have to be a medical assistant or an EMT with at least 1.5 years experience.
So there's no school that you can go to that you can qualify to be a
CCT.
You can be, there's no CCT training.
I believe they are now like a patient care techs, but as far as like the critical aspect, I don't believe they teach that in schools. I mean, it's something that the hospital will bring you on and then teach you how to do here. But medical assistants, like they're supposed to be able to do various tasks that we do, and EMTs, they're already dealing with the critical aspect, so it's just coming in and transitioning to an indoor phase.
So if I have a friend right now that's a CNA, and he or she wanted to maybe transition into the hospital, could they also look for jobs that say CCT, and that would be a parallel transfer for them?
It would actually be at the hospital discrepancy, because at the end of the day, some CNAs have transferred into the CCT position, but I know recently our hospital, Capital Health, they moved to PCAs, and then they go to CCTs.
So as far as the food chain, what would you say the position that's right up under you and the position that's right above you?
Well, I would say this is the bottom position. Don't get me wrong, as far as like patient care.
Right.
But I mean, obviously, you can go into like the dietary and all that, but that's, I guess that would consider it to be the bottom. But as far as patient care aspect, I guess we are the bottom, or our CNAs would probably be the bottom because they can't do various tasks.
They can't draw blood, so.
Some CNAs, it depends on the floor. They might be eligible to draw blood,
right.
Especially if they have like phlebotomy cert, maybe.
Right.
So
what would you say the biggest hurdle that you have as a CCT? Like, what's the biggest issue that you see, or the thing that causes your job to be the hardest?
Well, I mean, with any job, you have your coworkers or the patients. I mean, any day can be a hard day. Patients aren't the easiest sometimes, and coworkers sometimes can turn out the easiest as well. I mean, but if you're talking about, just give me 1 second. I'm not gonna pause right there. So, what was that question again?
I was asking, like, what's the biggest hurdle as a CCT? Like,
so the biggest hurdle, I would say, when you're first coming in as a CCT, you got to learn, the landscape. Especially if you're just jumping in. I mean, as an EMT, you might be, a little bit more used to the critical aspect, but as a medical assistant, that extra critical might be, what drives you over the edge. But me as an EMT, I'm a pretty laid back guy. I came into it, open-minded, glass half full, and I was just, willing to learn because I wanted to, elevate myself in a medical career and see what, the hospital has to offer me. But I would say learning all the tools, learning procedures inside the hospital, that can be tedious. Like when you're first coming in, everything's moving so fast. Everybody has a role. Learning your role and learning how to fit into that puzzle. That's the key. And once you figure that out, it's smooth sailing from there.
Last question. Do you think you're a better chest compressor than me?
Of course. I do it on a daily basis over here.
Do you think because you do chest compressions on a regular that you're a better chest compressor than me? Of
course, because you got to think about it like this. Anything that you have practice on, like say if I ball every day, most likely my jump shot gonna be better than yours. It's gonna be a little bit more crisp. Don't get me wrong. We get you can do it in 12-hour day. We get exhausted in here.
Well, what if I try to throw in another aspect to say, like, well, I have more training than you, so I understand more than you, so that makes me a better chest compressor than you?
Well, I would say that's also an individual, and then on top of that, you're talking about knowledge as opposed to the physical aspect. So if anybody's doing something, you can have a bachelor's in this, and a person has been doing this for 30 years, who are you going to choose? The person that's doing this for 30 years, the ins and outs. This guy that just came out with a bachelor's.
Yeah, I hear what you're saying, but I'm really a great chest compressor.
I mean, look, I called on you for some help before.
So you remember that day I came down here and you were sweating? When I got into it, did I switch out? I don't switch out. I stay on the chest compressions the whole time. When I came down here, you were pretty exhausted.
Yeah, we was doing it for like 45 minutes.
The little grease that you use in your head, it was sweating down in front of it. It was coming out in front of your head. I never sweat. I'm the best chest compressor there is, and I'm gonna hold that title.
I doubt it, but we can argue about it. We gotta do it one day.
So hopefully we never have to do chest compressions again because we want all patients to live forever. But if we have them again, it's only gonna be you and I doing chest compressions.
You already know.
We're gonna give all the nurses time off. We're not switching out. And when you get tired, you got to be honest because you don't want the patient to die trying to prove something to me. You know what I mean?
I got you.
All right. So we're going to end this interview, man. Cal, thank you for coming through. One last question. You are in nursing school, right?
Yes. Almost done.
So how hard was that being a CCT and doing nursing school? Just to let people know, like, it's something that you can do. You don't have to stay in one area.
So as far as the clinical aspect with nursing school, like you're going to be, a rock star. Now the knowledge in there, what you learn in the books is not always done in the actual medical field. So you have like a sort of a disconnect when it comes to that. So you just have to separate yourself from what is actual and book work. Because book work, it could be outdated. It could just be, universal. Because each region may have different needs that they have to fulfill in that certain area.
So for the most part, it's been a pretty smooth ride for you, you say?
Nursing school is hard. If you do decide to go to nursing school, you might not be able to work full-time doing it. People have done it, but just know it's not the easiest thing to do. You're going to have a pretty tedious time, especially depending on the school.
And how much longer you got before you finish?
I would say, 3 more classes?
And how long is that going to take?
Maybe another year.
Okay. Yeah. All right, Kyle, thank you for coming on, man. Landlord of Medicine, doing this interview with me, exposing the people to different areas of medicine, hopefully motivating somebody to move forward in life and just do something a little bit better. You don't always have to be a laborer. You can actually come inside and get the same money as working outside. And it's a decent career. You get benefits, guaranteed job. Even during COVID, we stayed working. So that's definitely a blessing to look forward to. So most definitely, man, I appreciate you coming on the Landlord of Medicine and hanging out with me.
Appreciate you.
Make sure you sanitize your hand. Matter of fact, wash your hand with soap and water after we finish this.
All right,
man, we over.